That's fine. Pay no attention to the man behind the curtain there. This is all Wizard of Oz stuff. Okay, we're live. It's 7:05. We are live. And tonight we're talking about a couple things. One, for those that weren't at the earlier live feed that I did this morning, which was very cool for all the guys to get together. But we have Supercharger, which is very cool. We talked about that this morning. And one of the things that we talked about are these, because they're very, very restrictive. Got them on both sides. They're a little bit different shape, but the thing is that the opening in these things, these seem to be some kind of like composite or something. The opening in that is not nearly as big as the opening in the blower. So we have 1.4 to 1.36 inches. It's got a little bit of taper to it. Somebody mentioned that might be the draft for the pulling the part out, that may be at that angle for that. And there seems to be enough thickness there that you could port that out, I guess, if you want to. At the very least, you'd want to radius this inner edge, because that's just a sharp edge. It's just a 90-degree edge. So even if you just tapered that, it would improve it. But you could go in and open that up. What I'm going to do is just replace it. I'm going to put a new flange on there because the opening in there, this is 1.4 inches. The opening is 2 inch by 1.8 inch. So a piece of 2-inch tubing needs to go there, or even a 2 1/4. I'll see how that fits. 2 1/4, and depending on how I juggle the wall thickness, that will almost be the same opening. We'll do a little, hammer forming and put it on there and weld it. I'll even do it. I might make it just out of steel or something, and just see how it works. And we'll put a little flared entry on it, and away you go. But it should be very cool. We talked this morning about we want to put a big bug catcher on it, make it all top fuely and stuff. I wanted to put, and maybe I can show you. Somebody sent me a picture of a Volkswagen that they have that has this on there. Not only does it have it on there, it's got a cog belt on it too. So he's got all the top fuely cog stuff. I'll see if I can find that. Let's see here. Oh, here we go. So I don't know if you guys will be able to see that. Yeah, you're not going to be able to see that. It's just all the way. Although this is a little bit darker. Maybe you can kind of get an idea. It's cool. It's a VW motor, and this is a carburetor up here. He's got a carburetor going into it. And it's all cog. So he's got a lower cog belt driving and he's got a cog pulley on the blower, which is very, very cool. So that's awesome. I was actually going to talk to him about maybe using this as one of the photos. Let's see if we can get a little bit better. I can kind of see a little bit there. Trying to get the lighting just right. Kind of get an idea. Trying to get the glare. Oh, they could see a little bit. Get the glare off of there. Kind of see that. Pretty cool stuff, though. So hopefully you guys can see that. So I'm going to change the size of those and make the entry bigger, and we're going to, we'll hop it up. I might talk to Brian. I think they did some testing with somebody recently on some ported superchargers. I'm wondering, given that this is a roots blower, I'm wondering about this opening size. I wonder if we could make the opening even bigger, not just port it so that size flows bigger. I wonder if we can make it bigger, because it needs to have a Dominator carburetor on there or something to look really, really sporty. But that's another day for another test. But I'm excited about testing that. It will be cool. It'll be cool to get the airflow numbers and get the charge temperature numbers, and all that will be good. Vermont's in the house. Tonight, though, I want to talk about, I just now posted before I got on here, a video on, so I wanted to know what you guys thought. The video basically is how to make 700 horsepower for $2,700. And it's not how to add that much power to your motor, for $2,700, which a turbo thing probably would do that. But it's how to build a 700 plus horsepower motor for $2,700, complete, the whole motor. So, and obviously it starts with a junkyard motor, because that way we start out with cheap stuff, and it's a nitrous motor. And the thing that makes it interesting, and I thought, well, what where guys might think that this is useful is I get calls all the time because we're close to drift races and drag races and other things. And guys apparently know who I am. And so they're like, hey, Richard, do you have a motor, any kind of motor? All we care about is that it's some sort of LS V8. Does it run? Is it complete? Can we put it in the car? All we want to do is be able to go out and we'll buy it from you. And we need to be able to go out and make laps or whatever, and I'm like, I probably don't have anything. Or if I do, I would definitely try to help them out. But it dawned on me that there are a lot of guys out there racing no prep or drift or drag racing, whatever they're doing. But I mean, how many of us have like a motor, the dedicated motor that we built, the one that we broke and that we need a spare immediately, and it always breaks like, 2 days before or a week before or whatever. So, even if you had the money, which most of us don't, even if you had the money, you wouldn't have enough time. You wouldn't have enough time to go build another motor anyways. And not very many people that I know of that I hang out with would have that motor, a really expensive race motor, and then a duplicate spare that they go, oh, well, this one threw a rod or whatever. We'll just swap them over because our spare program is on point and we're just going to put that in there. So more often than not, what it is, hey, we broke our race motor. We thought it would never break because they never break, right? They never break ever. They just last forever. But we broke that and we don't have a spare. That's pretty normal. What can we do? And this is that option. So this is an option that, hey, look, you have no other choice. You got to run something. So if 700 horsepower, or in this case, 750 horsepower, if that will help you do what you need to do or get you close to do what you need to do, or just let you make passes or go out and drift or whatever you're doing, will that do it? Will that help you? And the answer normally is yes. I mean, if you're a 700 horsepower guy and you're racing against a 1500 horsepower guy, and that 1500 horsepower guy can put all that down and he can hook all that up, it's not going to be a very close race. But if you're doing no prep and he spins the tires and you can hook yours up and you can go and a 700 horsepower, drag race combination can go pretty fast. So I've just showed people how you can take an LS, put a cam, put springs in it. And actually you could do it for quite a bit less than this, because all of this was I just priced out like retail stuff, like from Summit Racing. So this is what it would all cost if you bought it all. But if you had a buddy that had a carburetor, if you had an intake laying around, if you had one of these MSD controllers that everybody uses, if you had a nitrous plate, maybe there's a guy giving cams away or whatever, this guy, then most guys could do it much, much cheaper. And I put this in the video, pick an LS9 camshaft. It's not great, but it is a cam and it will make lots of peak power. And with nitrous, that's what you want. You're going to be soft down low, but hey, hit the nitrous a little earlier. Have hit a 50 shot or something. Do something. Have two buttons, like they do in all the Fast and Furious movies. Bye, too soon, Junior. And then do that. But just get something working and go out and be able to run it. And so I talked about all the different things that we did. This motor was the one that I did when we were doing a competition. And so we ran it at different, hit levels, basically different jetting for the nitrous plate and stuff. And so you show how we go from a mild mannered kind of cam to 5.3, in this case, a carbureted one, which they don't tend to make as much power, but a carbureted one, and then hit it with a lot of nitrous. And the thing I like about the carbureted deal is that manifold is more conducive to hitting it with a 300 shot or 200 shot or 150 shot than it is trying to blow all that through some sort of long runner convoluted EFI intake manifold that doesn't lend itself very well, especially to get the nitrous through there is one thing, a little bit easier, but to get the nitrous and the fuel through an EFI intake manifold, like a truck manifold or stuff, it's not a good idea. You're going to run into problems. So on the carbureted stuff, you're dumping it all down there in the center, and I think distribution probably is I would choose that over trying to get a 300 shot going through a truck manifold any day. And it works a lot better. And it did work. We ran it many, many times with nitrous, and we've run nitrous on these single plane intake manifolds many, many times. And unless I was drag racing, I probably wouldn't pick the single plane manifold. I'd pick a dual plane manifold for most street driving LSs. If I was going to do a carburetor, I probably would do a dual plane. But in this case, I wouldn't. I'd do a single plane and put lots of, if it's a drag race motor, you probably have gearing and you probably have converter, and you just have to figure out with this kind of cheap setup, hey, where do I hit the nitrous at? Maybe right off the line. Who knows? But it works though, and it makes power. When we did the testing, we hit all the nitrous late only because I didn't want to make 750 foot-pounds like at 3,000 RPM. I've run lots of nitrous all the way through, and it's fun to go by and have it go all the way through. That's fine. But this was a junkyard motor with no ring gap, and I didn't change that at all. We just didn't want to do it. And so I thought, well, we just hit it at the end. It's probably fine. And it turns out it was. And it even took one hit with full NA timing, which we obviously retarded the timing, especially on a 300 shot, quite a bit. And we were going to run it NA again. Then we go, let's fill the bottle up. Let's just do one thing. And then that tune stayed in there because we have takeaway tunes basically for the nitrous. And so we had full timing for the NA stuff. And then we, depending on how much jetting we use and how much nitrous you're using, we're taking away 4 and 8 and 10 and stuff and 12. That's pretty scary. I'm certain that it, was not helpful for the motor, but let's see. Hey, would you trust a $2,700 nitrous Junkyard LS in your race car if you broke your race motor? Very, very simple. Simplistic. What's up? Did the Impact? Oh, I'd never tried the Impact. I got busy with all kinds of stuff. Richard, what is the Truck LS fresh air tube baffle box for? I'm not familiar with that. Is there some sort of, I'd have to go look at what my truck is. Normally they're for noise. They're not for transient response. Normally they're for, to stop air induction noise. Vermont's in the house. Any Mega Squirt guys in Central Florida. Richard, I've been watching David Heizard about how LSA is overlooked. Yeah, I know David. He's a sharp guy. I'm here fighting a down printing press. Uh-oh. Glad you're adding the cost element. I did on this one. How much are complete junkyard engines? They're a long block can be $400 or $500. The cost comes from, because everything else that you add to that is as much as the engine is. So the carburetor, the intake manifold, if you buy them new, which I wouldn't do if I was doing this, if I was taking this route, I wouldn't do that. But the carburetor, the intake manifold, the nitrous kit, the MSD programmer, the cam and springs, all of that stuff, they all seem to be stuck on $500. You could do it for a lot less, but and I didn't put the cheap, the cheapest route in the costing. Looking to build Thomas. Richard, love the content. Looking to build an 01 Silverado short bed 2-wheel drive. That's what I wish mine was. Thinking 6-liter with LS 3 heads. Okay. 4th gen bottom end. Looking to make 600 to 800 wheel horsepower. You're going to do it with a centrifugal blower? Is that what you want? Any of them will make that. A centrifugal blower will make that. A roots blower, like a 2650, will certainly do that. The stuff that Tom Demuse has, the adapter plate that he has to put the GT500 blowers on there, that's not going to do, I don't know if that's going to do 800. 800 wheel horsepower is going to be like a 2650 kind of thing. A centrifugal blower will be in 800 wheel horse range, is going to be a YSI or an F1A94 were kind of the blowers that I would pick for those. You probably could do it with the Vortec TI trim. That would certainly do it. I think we've made way over 900 flywheel horsepower with that, so that would certainly do it. Any of the twin screws will do it. Whipple has stuff that will do it, and Kenny Bell. I don't know if they're still selling LS kits, but they obviously have blowers that will do that much easily. I can't tell you how many races I've won with half the horsepower the other guy has because I was able to hook it up when they couldn't. If you light the tires up, your day should be done. Unless the other guy lights his tires up, then it's just like a pedal fest all the way down there. Who can get traction? Have you seen S10s with the TBSS all-wheel drive setups? I think there's a Monte Carlo that uses that same setup. Turbo 6-liter for big power. I haven't seen that. How are they getting the all-wheel drive to last with that kind of power? Of course, I trust the Junkyard LS on nitrous. Of course. If you can run 1,500 horsepower and 6-liter internals, I can take nitrous too. It certainly can. The internals we weren't too worried about. I was worried about the ring gap situation. Tim, you had a bad day? Hey, we're here for you, man. See, look. It's better. There's a supercharger here. And a heat gun. Look, we can see how hot the blower is. 86 degrees. Boom, just like that. We got data. About the fresh air snorkel resonator, my friend thought it was for a pocket of air to make the engine more responsive. I thought it was to quiet induction noise. He calls them boost boxes. Yeah, the whole inlet system has air reservoir. The plenum has air reservoir, but he needs to do the math on how quickly that much air is actually used by the engine at wide open throttle. I haven't been here in a while. Any updates on the Trophy 4-cylinder? I haven't run it yet since it is rebuilt, but I haven't run it yet. Trying to get a buddy of mine to bet I could build a drag car in the 11s for 5,000 or less. That you should be able to do that. It was a lot easier when Fox Mustangs cost nothing. now they're money. Although you probably could still get 4-cylinder ones, maybe cheap. And if you're going to swap an LS in there anyway, it doesn't really matter that you don't have the other stuff. Let's see. Would you trust a $2,700 Junkyard nitrous? Yes, you guys are all Junkyard people. That's right. So we'll go from top chat to live chat. I mean, Matt went 8s for somewhere between $8,000 and $9,000 or whatever. A turbo LS is fairly inexpensive. The other things I don't know as much about, like the transmission. I'm thinking did he use a Turbo 400 or did he use a 4L80? I can't remember. Fiberglass dune buggy weighs nothing. Gonna do a 1915cc engine. Isn't a big displacement VW engine? Don't those get fairly expensive to make lots of NA Volkswagen power? A V8 Vega is an inexpensive way to go. Although Vegas are hard to find anymore. I bet guys want real money for those now. You gotta pick something that nobody likes. I'm sure even a Pacer or a Gremlin or all those are because they're super cool. That's why. 4L80 for Matt. Okay. I mean, it's way better to drive like that. Dennis, what's up? Another oddball 4-cylinder. Have you seen the new Birch Model A engine? No. It looks like the original Model A, but has 5 main bearings and a modern oiling system. I haven't. Mark has a Model A. I think that's what it is in the room where I stay, but we can't run it on the dyno. A lot of times the $2,700 nitrous motor was my main and my spare motor. That's right. T-buckets, yeah. T-buckets, how cheap can you get a T-bucket anymore for? I mean, do people still offer kits for those now? Come on, there we go. Doesn't like the green behind me. After watching Vizard's water injection video, I think it would be awesome to have him do a collaborative video with you for an 87 octane with water injection and timing changes. Was David saying that you could run 17-1 or something like that on 87 octane? Oh, I trust $1,000 LS. Yeah. And actually, if you went to the wrecking yard and were lucky enough to find a 6-liter, it'd be way more than that. Because if you put a cam in a 6-liter, I mean, it might be up 100 horsepower. Well, that's not going to be up 100 horsepower. It'd be up 50, I'm sure, be up a good 50 more than a 5.3 would be. $27 motor paid for itself a few times over with the cash. Nice. Cash days. My built motor is a spare because my junkyard motor refuses to fail. That's the one. That's the thing. The ones that you don't care about. Like when we ran the first Big Bang motor, I mean, we were trying to not be nice to it, run lots of boost on it. It's like, hey, I'm here. Let's go. Let's make this happen. As far as I know, Speedway Motors bought and is now selling most of the T-bucket kits. Okay. The G-body swap. Yep. Does anybody who talks about making cheap power ever post Excel spreadsheets of their actual parts costs, suppliers, etc.? So you need a list and a phone number and everything for the people that they bought the parts from. These are all numbers from Summit Racing, so they're actual parts, they're actual prices. Because a single cab short bed truck with a V8 and weight reduction lowered and good tires plus nitrous or some boost be a cheap drag option. I think so. I don't know how inexpensive trucks are anymore, though. I think that the S10 stuff, I see lots of those in the wrecking yards. So I think that that's probably still an option. But a C10 is not a cheap date anymore. Saw a strange manhole cover. Jensen Interceptor. Got a 468 from a jet boat. I want to put it in an El Camino. That's good. Yes, a big block El Camino is a good car. S10s don't have a V8, not from the factory. A lot of them came with the Iron Duke motors, and then some of them came with V6s also. We know that high compression boosted motors on pump gas need exact timing and fueling to survive, but can they safely make more power than a similar low compression motor? I don't think so. I think a low compression motor with more boost will make more power than a high compression one, than the high compression combination. Because I think that you give up too much. I think you give up too much of the detonation threshold with compression than you do with boost. You can make more power. It's like with timing too. You can make more power with the boost than you can with the timing. And it's certainly the case with compression. Compression, 1 point of compression is going to add 3 to 4% of the NA power. But any single pound of boost is going to be worth way more than that. Will an LS2 aluminum 4th gen bottom end make 800 wheel horsepower? I don't know how reliable you want it. We don't take them more than 1,000 horsepower, and I don't know how many runs they'll make like that. First 5.3 I bought, I put 20,000 miles on the summer, seriously hard miles, and took it without a beat. They're good motors. I mean, there's no doubt about it. Today at the junkyard, they had a 2004 1500 loaded with crap to crush, and they said it was a 5.34 all 16. I was devastated. I know you want to save them all, right? Bring them all home. Bring home all the puppies, all the LS puppies. 78% are saying yes. I think that, judging by how many runs we made with the nitrous on this thing, I can't see how it's not going to survive. Where you run into problems is nitrous is the same as boost. You run into problems when people get greedy and they're like, oh, I got it. The guy's got a fender on me. Scramble boost. I'm going to go from 20 pounds to 40 pounds. Just go from 20 to 30 and see what happens. Just try that. And the same thing with nitrous. I need another kit. Well, that's another 100 or 200 horsepower. You were already going good. And now you've just melted all the electrodes off of your spark plugs. And you're lucky if that's the only thing. Usually it's pistons also. Picked up my first LQ9, getting excited to do a low buck build. And of course, love the horsepower. Do I jump right into a boosted build or build an NA and add boost later? If you're going to add boost later, just do the things that you would do to your NA motor now, so it's ready for you just to put a turbo on it. Do ring gap, have a big enough injector, have a big enough fuel pump, those things. Yes, because I got a 2004 5.3 extended cab for $3,000. Runs great. Not ideal for racing, but 2001 S10 with a 4.3 was beat up at $800. So the lighter 4.3 or the heavier 5.3. Are you drag racing it? If you're racing it, the 5.3 would be way better than the 4.3. I mean, it's going to be like 150 horsepower better. At what point would you rebuild or replace a 5.3? Mine has 330,000 miles on it, so not then. Well, jet bloats are a good source for big blocks. I'm not looking at them on Facebook Marketplace. Lots of 455 Ols and 460 Fords. Yeah, Jay, then I wouldn't do the 4.3. There just isn't enough parts available for that. High compression versus compression. Let the intercooler cool the charge air, not compress, heat it further in the cylinder with higher compression. That's not what I'm worried about. And there's an argument to be made that a lower boost has more volume, and so it allows more air in to make more power. Now, I want to have that discussion with somebody like Gail Banks or maybe Billy or somebody. But the higher the static compression that you have, and I know the dynamic compression guys are going to argue with me. I always see that as the more problematic situation. When you add boost, you don't increase the static or peak cylinder pressure, so the peak dynamic compression, let's say, nearly as much, because the way that boost works is you have a lot more average power production. You have a lot more average cylinder pressure. It's not just a big spike in the peak thing. So if you look at a cylinder pressure trace, it has a whole bunch of extra power producing area, let's say. And so I think it would be less detonation prone that way. For daily driving and boost, would you rather go lower compression? For a daily driver, I would go 9-1 and not 11-1. Boost cam required for what? No, boost cam. A 459 is a boost cam. You shouldn't ask yourself whether you need a turbo cam or not, or a boost cam. What you need to ask yourself is, what do I want the cam to do, and forget about the boost. Then figure out what you want the cam to do, and then just add the boost to that. Do I want it to idle? Do I want it to have chop? Do I want it to make peak power at 7,000 RPM? Do I want it to make peak power at 5,500 RPM? Do I want it to be easy on springs? How do I want my idle quality to be? Figure out all of those things that you want the cam to do, and then just add whatever boost you're going to add, and it will be fine. Bad O-ring or stuck pressure relief valve caused that low oil pressure. I bought a 5.3 L33 low mileage with that issue. Mint engine, just bad O-ring or stuck valve. So did you fix that? And now you scored yourself an L33, which obviously is awesome. Henry, I got a 6-liter swap into my 96 K1500. I picked up a GT45 for it. That's a little on the small side, but it'll be very responsive. You have 1250 cc injectors, which is more than enough. You only need to run LS is typically the system runs if you have a factory fuel rail and regulator, they typically run 58 psi. You don't need to run that high of a pressure, but I don't know if you have an adjustable fuel pressure regulator or not. If you don't, then you're stuck with the fuel pressure that it has in the system. If you have an adjustable one, you with that size injector and a GT45 with that size injector and a GT45, if you have enough fuel pump, you probably don't need more than 45 or 50 psi static pressure. Can we get more 351 Windsor stuff? I would like to, yeah. Richard, 2 GT45s on a 40 over ported pre-Eagle 5.7 intake. Will it ever spool? It's going to be pretty soft. Jay, yeah, I don't. Obviously Mustangs, no. El Caminos, no. Even Monte Carlos or Regals or those kinds of things. You might be able to find some of those. Maybe some of the later ones. Yeah, Foxes are big money. My angle is there's engine compression, compresses air, boost compresses air, compressing air heats the air. Compressed air is coolable with the intercooler. Intracylinder compressed air isn't coolable. That's true. But if your cool air enters the combustion chamber, it's going to get compressed, right? So it's going to heat up. But you want cooler air doing that? What other turbo would you recommend? If you have a 6-liter, a GT45 is not what you want for 800 horsepower. You want something bigger than that. Like a 7875 would be. Talk to Byron at VS Racing. Or are you asking me what's my daily driver? Mine's a Silverado. My buddy has a 97 Mustang with a 302 swap. He's between the Kenny Bell. You just tested a Vortec or possibly an On3 kit. It's mostly a daily, but also for fun. Of those, the On3 kit is going to be potentially the most powerful. I mean, it depends on what blower you choose and depends on what he really wants out of the deal. I had a Vortec and I loved it. It was a lot of fun, but it's going to be a centrifugal blower is going to definitely be softer down low. It's not going to be as responsive as the Kenny Bell is. And hopefully the 302 isn't a stock 302, that it has at least a cam and hopefully cylinder heads on it. A hot mess. The GT35s is what I would suggest for 1,000 horsepower stuff, which just sounds like where you're going to be at. Just replaced an AC clutch yesterday, 110. Yeah, it's pretty toasty out. Twin 35 should spool and get close to 800 with a 6-liter. They would easily do that on a 6-liter. Quite easily. I know I ran today, but it was not 110 out when I ran. I think it got up to 95 today. And I hate my, what is this thing here? Where is this telling me that the... I'm looking at, I have a... Oh, that's why. Where is that at? Since who cares about San Jose? That's why I was wondering. It's telling me a temperature, and I'm like, oh well, this is not bad. I'll just go for a run there. But it was telling me that it's, hey, what's going on here? There we go. But it's telling me it was like 10 or 15 degrees cooler. I'm like, it's not that cool outside. That's because I had San Jose in there. New Edge Mustangs are by far the cheapest way to get into lightweight V8 sports cars. Just have to deal with a stock 2-valve, which needs boost or a swap. So you're talking about a 4.62 valve GT or something? Should I get another GT45 or should I upgrade to a bigger one? You should upgrade to a bigger one. You don't want a second GT45 because 2 GT45s are 1,500 horsepower with a turbo or more, and you don't want that. Does the AM R500 have two? I think it's only a 2-lobe. Let me see. There's 1, 2. No, that one. So there's 1. There's 1. There's 1. I'm thinking it's a 2. 75% on our poll. I believe it's 302. It's 303 cam, aluminum head, strict flow, upper and lower, headers, and 410 gears. Okay. A turbo on that would be nice then. Not really. I'd be breaking too much stuff at 1,000. Yeah, but 7 or 800 you're not going to break stuff there, right? Always vet, low oil pressure with a mechanical gauge. That's what I did on mine, and it turned out to be it was low oil pressure, but it was fixed. A lot of times you can fix oil pressure on LSs by changing the oil. I used to get up at 4 a.m. to run before I had kids. Yeah, Lisa and I used to go, getting out at 4. We would go there at 4:30. We'd go to the gym at 4:30 because it was the only time that we had to work out. I hated it. I hated it the whole time. I hated waking up, and we would go, and it would be cold outside. It's winter. It'd be raining. You know, it just was not my thing. Stock 4.6 liter, working on a supercharged build for my Crown Vic. That'll be good. The oil galley barbell in the back can also be an issue. I've never seen one of those go bad. Richard, can you run GT45s in oil only? Yeah, I think you can. I don't see why that would be a problem without melting them down. Just because a turbo has a water-cooled center section doesn't mean it has to have a water-cooled center section. Lots and lots of turbos out there without water-cooled center sections. The one I had was clean. As a new one, it was the plunger. It got stuck. Weird, but happening. I'm having a hard time running a GT45 turbo. The methanol injected 6-liter LS seems to have a hard time to spool up. A GT45 turbo on a 6-liter should not have trouble spooling up. Something else is going on. It doesn't have enough fuel. It doesn't have enough timing, or it has too much fuel. It has too much water methanol injection. If that's what you're doing. I do like when you look at the barbells. I like the my glasses are broken, so I keep falling down. I like the billet ones. I'm like, ooh, yeah, I definitely need a billet barbell in my LS bill. I would want that, but it's just highly unnecessary. David, you have a 351 forged piston, stock heads, valve train upgrade. So spring, do you have rockers, unknown cam, RPM intake? What size turbo would you suggest? How much power do you want to make? Forget about the boost. Do you have any idea what the motor makes now, NA? Any idea? Is it 300? Is it 400? And then how much power do you want to make? Because 15 pounds is going to double whatever you have. Rockers and springs. So it would almost have to have springs if it has a cam. I haven't seen too many cams that the stock springs will allow. Some of them will, but not very many of them. Use a magic marker and put a lobe on it. I need to take the I put my tools away from this morning. I need to take this off, and then I'll better be able to see it. I was counting them, but I was counting them with my finger. Let's see if I can mark this. Yeah, it's only 2. Hot mess, Richard, 20 pounds depends on the turbo. He can get 15 from a KO3 and maybe get 20 horsepower. It doesn't work that way. You can't take a KO3 and put it on a 400 horsepower motor and have it make 15 pounds of boost at the horsepower peak. It's not going to do that. So that's not right. It just won't make that boost pressure. It won't be able to support that because it doesn't have the airflow. So, and we assume that when we're talking about doing that, you know, it's like having enough fuel pump. I have RHS 215 heads on my 393. I'd love to boost it, but it was told the heads have bad drain back. Any experience with these heads? We've run those heads before on a Ford, but I don't remember looking at the drain holes to see if that was a problem. It hasn't been to the dyno. Like to see 600, but I'm unsure of the crank. Well, then you don't. If this is the 15-pound guy, you don't want anywhere near 15 pounds because if you have a cam 351, it's going to make more than 300 horsepower. Hey, did you forget where I was or who I was? Did you forget? Come on, camera. How about this? Here, look, it's a supercharger. It likes that. See, it's like the supercharger. It doesn't like that green background. I don't think back behind me. I know that you're gonna fall. I know that you want to fall, so I have to put you down anyways. Hot mess, you're just being facetious. Your KO3s, you're just gonna bundle them up. Fun time talking about cars, cams, Dogman, Junkyard, engines, the Sasquatch, big feet. That's the plural, by the way, because you don't just see, nobody ever sees just one. You got to see a whole, I don't know, what is a group of Bigfoots besides big feet? Is it a covey? Is it a coven? Is it a group? The supercharger, we're going to airflow test it. We're going to spin the heck out of it and see what it'll flow. And then I'm going to make some super richy upgrades, airflow upgrades to it. And then we'll see how much it, a troop, that'd be good. Yeah. A squadron. A squad. Sasquatch saw you, but you don't think they believed the rest of them believed him. Well, he's been known to be, 84 and sunny. It's not 84 and sunny right now. I think this thing lies to me. Daniel, you have a brand new B15 crate motor for sale with lots of extra parts. Is it more than $1,500? A platoon. There you go. What are some of the bigger military groupings? Not a squad. Not a platoon. A company and a regiment. Yetis. Those are only our northern brethren, though. Our northern Sasquatchy brethren. A wing. Yep. And then one of them would be the wing commander, right? One of them could be red leader. How's our poll doing? 77%. So we're going to end our poll there. I think we're pretty much all on the same page there. NorCal isn't a battalion. There you go. Then regiment. Okay. Everybody just called me once, 10.5 for it. That seems like a lot for a motor, but they'll probably get it. The HOA. I think they're called Karens, right? Depends on if they're like pestering people in the wilderness, telling them that they have to plant extra trees. After 21 years as a CB, it's hard to forget. That's very cool. Flying CBs. That was a John Wayne movie, wasn't it? That's an old school one, though. Oh, I love it. Somebody asks a question, and then another one, and then nothing, and then two more, and then six more. I'm like, dude, I can't go down that road. What motors come already stock or are readily available in junkyards that handle 550 wheel horsepower? Is it cheaper to upgrade another common one that can handle more after upgrades? Did you see the video that I just put up that was 750 horsepower with nitrous? LSs do that. LSs can go to 1,500. Listening to the weather one day. Yeah, I don't know where this is. I'm gonna have to change that. I have to change my. I don't know why it picked arbitrarily some other town. Does anyone trust shops to do their brakes? Just do the fronts for the second time on my Ridgeline today. What do you think about LT-based engines? I haven't seen any of them in wrecking yards. I bought one long ago, about an L83, but we bought it online from some place that, you know, had took the whole thing out. A hot mess. There's no way I can tell you that. I don't know how long they last. There are lots of guys out there driving around in turbo LSs and stuff that don't have water cooled turbos in them. They drive them all the time. It's an LSX block with an LSX head. Yeah, I know what the B15 is. I've run lots of them, and they're good motors. Did he do a bunch of stuff to it too? Because they don't come as a complete motor. I always put head studs in them and valve springs. And normally we would change the cam, and then put some kind of blower on them or turbo or something. Like how the carbon PTR keeps low end power and sells high end power. Yeah, it doesn't make the peak power on the bigger motor that some of these other short runners did, but the carbon PTR. Wait, which one am I thinking of? That's not their new one. Carbon PTR is the high ram looking one. Yeah, that's a good one. I think that's a good intake manifold. I just don't know about I have no idea what the price is though. Big Bang, a Hyundai Kia 4-cylinder. Best upgrade for an LQ4. For any LS, the first upgrade you should do are cam and springs. You're going to get the most out of that. Turbo 8.1 industrial motor, easy 700 horsepower. Yeah, they're hard to find, but you can definitely, obviously, as I've shown, you can make lots of power with those. LQ4, change of an LQ9 piston. I wouldn't do that. That's gonna be hard to find. Where do you find the spare LQ9 pistons that aren't attached to an LQ9? $1,300 for a carbon intake manifold. It does look amazing. Richard, I know on those turbos that don't have any water ports, but if it has water ports, shouldn't the prudent thing to do? You can run water to it, and you don't have to run a separate cooling system for the turbos. You just have to run your water system, because a turbo gets really, really hot. It gets hotter than the water is that you're running through your cooling system. It gets way hotter than 200 degrees. So if you have 200-degree water cooling it, then it's going to stay cool and it's going to be much better off. You don't have to have a separate cooler and lines and pump and cooler for it. Just circulate it through your water system. Saw 454 SS today. Don't know what they didn't make those for more than a few years. Those were a whopping 255 horsepower, something like that. That wasn't very much. Thomas, you want to run some nitrous on your intercooler? We've ran 50 shots and 100 shots with, depending on how much power you're making with whatever you're turbocharging. Just run it off the heater hose. Yeah, that's how the Dodge 2.2 turbo is. In fact, I'm probably going to reroute the watering. I know they have a water mod for the 2.2, but we're going to do it a little differently on the engine dyno, I think. What do you think about on-3 turbos? I've never run one. So I have no idea. I have no basis for for discussing intelligently about that particular turbo or that company. I don't think I've run any of their stuff. Ford V6 EcoBoost uses engine coolant to warm and cool turbos from the factory. Is ring gap a must for a turbo? No, you can go without it. Then it could break too. The 454 SS trucks were definitely 454s, yeah. 6-liter with LS3 heads and boost with a 50 shot in the intercooler is what I'm going to go with. Yeah, I wouldn't put a 50 shot into the intercooler. You shouldn't be looking to try to cool the intercooler. That's not a real thing. That doesn't work. What you should do is you should inject the nitrous into the intake manifold, and what you'll see is the gain that you get will be, the power gain will be instantaneous, which is what you want. And if you want to get the turbo spooled up, that's the way to do it. The 50 shot that you're putting in on a 6-liter with LS3 heads and some kind of turbo on there, it's going to change the charge temperature very, very minimally. Richard, if I run water out of the turbos, I'm already sitting at 225, sitting in drive-through. Turbos would tip it over and start overheating the motor. I don't think that that's true. If you're sitting at the drive-through and you're overheating, you have another problem that's not related to it being a turbo motor. You need to get more cooling. You either need to get more circulation speed, or you need to get more radiator or more shrouding. The turbos, when you're sitting there idling, are not going to be generating any heat, hardly any at all. I mean, it's just exhaust. So I don't think that they're going to be very hot. I don't think the water going in there is going to be appreciably hotter than went in there. John, are the aluminum 5.3s any better than the iron 5.3s? Yes, they are, because they're lighter. I know you said besides the weight. That's enough of a reason. And then some of the aluminum 5.3s are Gen 4 motors. So that block is better than a Gen 3 motor. It has the shorter head studs, which I like. It has communication tunnels. It has the upgrades that they learned on the LS6 motor and made the Gen 4 motor better. Plus, the Gen 4 motor has the aluminum block stuff. If they're Gen 4, they have better rods than the Gen 3 stuff does. But either one of them will make more power than you're likely to use. I short blocked my 302, installed the cam, realized that the bolt is 7/16 20 instead of 3/8. Been having a hard time finding 7/16 cam bolts. For the nitrous into the intake on boost application, what kit would you run? We ran any sort of wet fogger setup will work. The guys from Nitrous Express, we use theirs. You can use the Zek stuff has that. Holly, the NOS guys, they all have some sort of wet fogger setup that you run. Just plumb it into the, like I said, if you plumb it into the throttle body, before the throttle body in that intake track going into the intake manifold. The Mopar Stage 2 kit for the SRT4 came with injectors for CO2 on the intercooler. Where does the CO2 come from? Some LSs are 3.5s. I think the L33 is like that, right? Just got an 04 Envoy for $2,000. Nice. My radiator changed to aluminum racing radiator. Drop temps 40 to 50 degrees. Injector is like a nitrous spray nozzle. Okay, so, and I've done that too. We've run nitrous with the intercooler ring. I ran that test on an air-to-air intercooler, and that's not the way that I would go either. There's a guy on YouTube who ran an AMR at Sundance with a 2.2, went slower in the eighth with it on there. Was it an NA one that he put the blower on, or was it a turbo one, or what was it? Richard, do you need more radiator? I set up for 10.5 to 1 boost and idle at 900. Been running into issues. Idling is slower when I do lose voltage from the alternator. It doesn't have underdrive pulleys or anything on it, right? Richard, LS 376 480 crate motor. LS3 with GM's hot cam, worth it. The hot cam works, but there are other choices obviously out there. Whatever is the least expensive route for you to go to get an LS3, a 6.2 aluminum LS3 base motor with a cam in it, whatever is the least expensive route, you should go that way. And the guys are right. 4L60 will be daily in retirement. Okay. The 4L60 is going to be a little iffy in that. Richard, 20% underdrive on the crank. Yeah, if you're underdriving that stuff, that's probably part of your problem. Have you seen the 92 millimeter throttle body kit? Is that the plate that goes behind the throttle body? We've run those before and they work. They inject nitrous like you're supposed to. You're not going to see any change in power from doing that versus I like having the nitrous injected on the turbo side of the throttle body so that you could close if the, like, let's say the nitrous stuck open and this would be a weird case. And I've never had it happen, but if it did, you could close the throttle body and then it would just be spraying stuff against a closed throttle body. If it's on the other side of the throttle body and the nitrous sticks open, like your solenoid sticks open and it's spraying nitrous, you're going to have a hard time shutting that off. I mean, I guess you could shut the ignition off, but I like being able to close the throttle body and stop that. Trying to reduce parasitic loss from driving accessories at higher RPM. Yeah, I get that. But if it overheats sitting at idle, I'd rather not have that than and then pay the price for the extra parasitic loss at higher engine speeds that I'm at much less often than I am sitting at idle. I put underdrive pulleys on my Mustang and after sitting in traffic down Newport Beach when we were cruising down Newport Beach in the Mustang, I took them off the next day. It was terrible. The alternator didn't charge. You kept having to rev the motor up. It was awful. Supported LS3 intake and throttle body with turbo worth the gains, or should just go to aftermarket intake and bigger throttle body looking for Thomas, you don't, if you have an LS3 heads and the LS3 intake manifold, you don't need to worry about anything else. We need to worry about a ported intake. You don't need to worry about an aftermarket intake. You don't need about porting the throttle body. If you have a turbo on there, 800 wheel horsepower on a 6-liter is very, very easy. It's just turbo. Yeah, the underdrive pulleys were awful. And I even had a very cool carbon fiber alternator, an alternator pulley, which I had to have on there because it's an underdrive pulley and it's full of carbon fibery goodness. And that came off too, as much as I loved it. And I just wanted to wear it, with a big chain around my neck. Also put some form of intercooler on it. Yeah, I don't, like I said, I don't know how much his NA power his motor will be making, but after we flow it, we'll know. We'll have a bunch of stuff. Dennis, did you have a question? I'm trying to scroll back to see what your response was, but I don't see. It's an NA car. One more minute. I'm already late. I'm late. So all you guys here, go watch the video that I just posted on the $2,700 race motor, and you can see if, hey, would I go that route? Thomas, did you do any work for CHP Pro back in the day? Yeah, I worked with them a lot. I knew Chris very well. And who was the guy from? He was always doing stuff with Derek over at L&R. Man, what was his name? You probably know. But yeah, I did a bunch of stuff with the guys at CHP and Pro back in the day. I did a bunch of Mustang stuff with them. I mean, I used a lot of their stuff on the engine dyno that we tested. $700 or 800 horsepower is a lot on the street. You'll find out that that's a traction limited kind of thing. Sean, that's who it was. That's right. Yeah, Sean and Derek are good people. Good folk. And on that note, it is time to go. But I'll be back tomorrow, and I'm gonna find out tomorrow when I can go down and I can make a bracket to spin that thing. I can't wait to find out what the airflow is. Make some big airflow power. I don't know. I'll see you guys all tomorrow.